Good morning, children. Let's begin with the explanation of lesson 4.3, World Heritage. The text type is informative. With this, we understand that the lesson provides us information about World Heritage Sites and UNESCO. Children, our planet Earth is abound with places which are of outstanding universal value to humanity. These places are naturally and culturally very valuable, very important to humanity. UNESCO selects such places, such naturally and culturally valuable places, and lists them down in the World Heritage List. UNESCO protects these World Heritage Sites for future generations so that they can appreciate and enjoy the rich heritage. So let's go to the lesson and let's understand the World Heritage. But before that, let's gain some information about UNESCO. So here, children, you can see the logo of UNESCO, that is United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. Children, you can read the information given over here regarding UNESCO and add to your knowledge. Now, let's begin with the explanation of lesson. World Heritage. Heritage means something which is valued because of historical, natural or cultural importance. A World Heritage Site is a site determined by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO to have significant cultural or natural importance to humanity. So, places or sites which are determined, which are decided by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, they should be significant, they should be very important culturally or naturally to humanity. As such, the sites are protected and maintained by the International World Heritage Program, which is administered by the UNESCO World Heritage Committee. So the sites, the World Heritage Sites, they are protected and maintained. Maintenance of the World Heritage Sites along with uh, protection of the World Heritage Sites is done by the International World Heritage Program. And this program is administered, it is managed, it is looked after by the World Heritage Committee, which is formed by UNESCO. Because World Heritage Sites are places that are significant culturally and naturally. Right now we read that the World Heritage Site should be significant, should be important culturally and naturally to humanity. They vary in type, but they are of various types. The World Heritage Sites, they are of various types, but include and do they include? The World Heritage Sites include what? They include forests, lakes, monuments, buildings and cities. Now we have two questions here. What significant aspects should a World Heritage Site have? So the significant aspects that the World Heritage Site should have is that the World Heritage Site should be culturally and naturally important to humanity. The second question, what do World Heritage Sites include? So the World Heritage Sites include forests, lakes, monuments, buildings and cities. World Heritage Sites can also be a combination of both cultural and natural areas. So it may happen that a World Heritage Site is culturally as well as naturally important to humanity. For example, Mount Huangshan in China is a site with significance to human culture because it played a role in historical Chinese art and literature. The mountain is also significant because of its physical landscape characteristics. So you can see over here in the image Mount Huangshan, which is an example of combination of culture and nature, and it is significant to humanity because it played a very important role culturally in Chinese art and literature. Along with it has beautiful physical landscape, and that makes it naturally very significant, very important. History of World Heritage Sites. Although the idea of protecting cultural and natural heritage sites around the world began in the early 20th century, momentum for its actual creation was not until the 1950s. So, early 20th century, people started feeling the need of preserving, of protecting cultural and natural heritage sites all over the world. But till 1950, actually nothing was done. In 1954, Egypt started plans to build the Aswan High Dam to collect and control water from the Nile River. So it was in 1954 when Egypt planned that they would build this Aswan High Dam in order to store and preserve water of Nile River. The initial plan for the dam's construction would have flooded the valley containing the Abu Simbel temples and scores of ancient Egyptian artifacts. Now, this plan of Egypt of constructing the dam, the Aswan High Dam, the initial plan which was made by Egypt, it would have flooded the valley which contained Abu Simbel temples. You can see over here Abu Simbel temples, and there were scores of there were a large amount of ancient Egyptian artifacts. The art and culture of Egypt would have been lost with the construction of this dam, as it would have flooded the valley. To protect the temples and artifacts, UNESCO launched an international campaign in 1959 that called for the dismantling and movement of the temples to higher ground. So, in order to protect these Abu Simbel temples and Egyptian artifacts, uh, UNESCO it started a campaign, and they started dismantling. Dismantling means disassembling, pulling down, and shifting the temples to a higher ground. The project cost an estimated US $80 million, $40 million of which came from 50 different countries. Because of the project success, and UNESCO was successful in this project, they were able to save the Abu Simbel temples and scores of Egyptian artifacts. So because of the project's success, UNESCO and the International Council on Monuments and Sites initiated means they started a draft convention. Draft convention means they drafted an agreement to create an international organization responsible for protecting cultural heritage. So they made an agreement that they would create an international organization, an organization which would work for the entire world internationally, and they would take the responsibility of protecting the cultural heritage all over the world. We have a question here. Why did UNESCO launch an international campaign in 1959? So we have the answer here. To protect the temples and artifacts, UNESCO launched an international campaign in 1959 that called for dismantling and movement of the temples to higher ground. Shortly thereafter, in 1965, a White House conference in the United States called for a World Heritage Trust to protect historic cultural sites but to also protect the world's significant natural and scenic sites. So it was in 1965 that White House Conference in United States, they demanded for a World Heritage Trust, which would protect not only historic cultural sites, but they would also protect the world's important natural and scenic sites. Finally, in 1968, the International Union for Conservation of Nature developed similar goals and presented them at the United Nations Conference on Human Environment in Stockholm, Sweden in 1972. So it was in 1972 uh, when the International Union for Conservation of Nature, they developed the same type of goal that even natural and scenic sites all over the world should be preserved, and they presented at the United Nations conference. Following the presentation of these goals, when this presentation was put up in the conference, the convention concerning the protection of the world cultural and natural heritage was adopted. So there was an agreement which was adopted by the UNESCO's General Conference on November 16, 1972. Now we have two questions here. Why did a White House conference in the United States call for a World Heritage Trust? So the answer is to protect historic cultural sites and also to protect the world's significant natural and scenic sites. Second question, when was the convention concerning the protection of world cultural and natural heritage adopted and by whom? So this answer we have it here. The convention concerning the protection of world cultural and natural heritage was adopted by UNESCO's General Conference on November 16, 1972. Now children, let's go to the next video and let's understand the further lesson.